In this video, I'm going to try to answer the question of what is the best mining rig to buy in 2023. And I'm going to do this by looking at things like current profitability, future events that might affect the profitability of the miners, daily profit per dollar spent buying the miners, power consumption, and which miner is the most profitable per watt, and so on. This was basically research I was doing for myself because I wanted to know what the actual best miner to invest in right now is. And then I thought, hey, I might as well share this in a video too. Now, this video is going to focus mainly on ASIC miners, since frankly, those are the main types of miners to look at if you want to mine profitably right now, at least in my opinion. Because as for GPU mining rigs, well, they're not very profitable right now, and I also have a massive back catalog of videos about buying GPUs for mining if that's what you're interested in. I'll leave a link to that up in the corner there, as well as in the description of this video. The video is also not going to feature CPU mining rigs because I just released a video on what the best CPU to get for mining is. Again, link up in the corner as well as in the description. And finally, I'm not going to feature mining equipment that is either super hard to get your hands on like FPGAs, or that is very niche like hotspot or hard drive miners. But with that out of the way, let's have a look at this massive spreadsheet that I've put together. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. CoinLedger is a crypto and NFT tax software built to save you time and help maximize your tax refund. Thankfully, CoinLedger has made the process of doing this super easy. All you have to do is sign up for an account and link your crypto wallets. That's it. What CoinLedger then does is it looks at the transaction data of those wallets and uses that to automatically generate a tax report for you in your country's local currency. You can then take this report and export it into any tax filing software like TurboTax or TaxAct, or you can send it off directly to an accountant. Best part is that if you use my link in the description below, you can sign up and use CoinLedger entirely for free. And once you're happy with the reports and are ready to export, you can save 10% by using my discount code 𝗧. But that's not all. They're also doing a giveaway where you can win a free $300 tax report. So make sure you click on that link in the video description below for more details. All right, so we are over on the computer here. And basically what I've done is I've just made a absolutely massive spreadsheet here, and don't worry, I will walk you through all of it in just a second here. I just want to say that if you do want to have a look at this and change some of the numbers around for yourself, I will leave a link to it in the description. And if you do want to edit it, just open it up and come in here, click File, make a copy, and then make a copy, and you should be able to edit that copy. All right, so let's get into it. As you can see, first column, pretty self-explanatory. It is just a long list of all of the sort of somewhat current generation ASICs that you are actually able to buy from the trusted vendors. And also you can see I have a price category here where you can sort by price. And as you can see, I am also including a fair few of the sort of affordable price miners, like the mini box miners and the iPollo minis and so on. So we're trying to cover the full spectrum of miners here, everything from the ones that go for a couple of $100 all of the way up to the ones that go for like 10 grand still. And then we have the algorithm that they mine, as well as the amount of different coins that you can mine with that algorithm. What you'll also see is that some of these miners actually are able to mine more than one algorithm, like this one that's able to mine 8 different algorithms somehow. And then of course we have just the price, what does the miner cost, right? Then we're moving into sort of profit land, or I should say revenue, because this is just at the current coin prices as of the day of recording this, how much does one of these miners make per day before electricity cost taken into account, right? And we'll get into electricity cost in a minute as well, so don't worry about that. And then finally we have the amount of watts that they pull in terms of electricity, right? So that's it. And what you could just do, of course, is list this by what is the the one that brings in the most money per day and be done with it. But obviously we're gonna look into it a lot deeper than that. So the first one that I want to bring attention to is this column here, which is dollars made per day per watt of electricity spent. So this would be something to look into if you're currently sort of limited on the amount of power that you can use in your mining location. So, you know, it's all well and good if we look down here that, you know, some of these miners pull like 5,400 watts, right? But if you're very limited on the amount of power that you can pull, you might want to maximize how much money am I, you know, getting per watt of power that I'm using. So you can sort by this column, of course, to see what we get there. And as you can see, things moved around quite a lot there. So just because a miner brings in a lot of money each day, that doesn't mean it's good in terms of amount of money per watt. I think you get the point there. A second way of categorizing these miners would be, well, which miner brings in the most money per dollar spent in terms of buying the miner, right? So now I just want to pause here quickly to say that after watching this, if you decide you want to get one of these miners, I'll leave some links to ASIC vendors that I trust in the description below this video. And for full transparency, some of those will be affiliate links, which means that if you do order through those links, it helps to support the channel at no extra cost to you. In some cases, there are actually also discount codes for you guys, so make sure you use those to get the best price possible. All right, now back to the video. A miner that makes, you know, $2 a day but costs $5,000 versus a miner that, you know, brings in $1 a day but only costs $100. That's somewhat of an obvious choice if all else are equal, right? So this is basically what this column is, right? So as we can see here, we have the K7, for example, that brings in over $6 per $1,000 spent buying the miner. So this is basically just how much money is it bringing in per day divided by the price, and then multiplied by 1,000, of course, because of $1,000, right? And we get a good example of why this might or might not be relevant to you in the very first two listed miners here, which is you have the 𝗖𝗢𝗜, which obviously brings in like well over $50 a day. However, since that miner is so expensive, if you're looking at it at a pure dollars made per $1,000 spent per day, you can see that the K7, since it's basically half the price of the 𝗖𝗢𝗜, actually brings in more money each day per $1,000 spent buying the miner. All right, so moving on, we obviously have to take into account power cost, right? Because these miners aren't profitable if they're not, you know, still profitable after we pay for our power costs for them. So I have made 4 different columns here for 4 different electricity costs prices. So we have 5 cents per kilowatt hour, 10 cents per kilowatt hour, 15 and 20 cents per kilowatt hour. So what we can do is we can, of course, just sort by our power cost here. So if you're on 10 cents per kilowatt hour, which then you should consider yourself pretty lucky in this landscape we have today, obviously the 𝗖𝗢𝗜 comes out on top. And don't worry, we will talk more about sort of some concerns with that and a lot of other miners as well a little bit later in the video. But just bear with me for now. And then we can see we have the K7 and the L7s coming up there. However, if you then were to sort by, you know, 20 cents per kilowatt hour, you can see that some of this is going to jump around quite significantly. And that is just because some of these miners, you know, might be profitable if you're not paying very much in terms of power costs, but they also do consume a big amount of power. So when you do take a big power price into account, profitability looks quite a bit different, right? So as you can see here, the Jas-Miner X16Q is one of the miners that actually takes a bit of a jump up just because it is so power efficient. So when we sort by a much higher power cost, it jumps quite a bit higher up in the list here. So we've taken into account power cost, but what if we want to combine the few different things we've been considering? So what I did for that is these columns here, which is basically how much profit do you get per $1,000 spent on a miner when taking into account your power price as well. So let's sort by one of these, and let's pick 15 cents per kilowatt hour now instead. So I will just sort this from Z to A, bringing up the most profitable at the top and then going down towards the less profitable ones towards the bottom here. Sorry, it's moving around quite a lot. All right, here we go. So we can see we kind of have these same few sort of top ones, but as I said, I will have to discuss a little bit about them. We then see the Jas miner. Obviously it's super efficient. You know, I expect it to be as high because running it isn't very expensive because of what a low amount of power it uses. Then we have the, actually this surprised me a little bit, the Apollo big Grin miner is quite high on the list here. It's in, what would this be, 11th place, even at 15 cents per kilowatt hour. That brings in almost, well, 76 cents per $1,000 spent. Now, of course, that is still over 1,000 days of ROI in this current climate, but then again, there isn't very much out there right now in any regard that is going to ROI at today's crypto prices before 1,000 days. As you can see, the list here is very short. And yeah, let's just move on to all of the caveats that I want to bring up with sort of most of these top miners here, which if we start with this KA3, which obviously on paper looks like an incredibly profitable miner to buy. So why aren't we all just running out and buying it? Well, first of all, because it's kind of still pretty hard to get a hold of. Shipments have been delayed and they're still trying to fill their pre-orders and whatnot. And something to keep in mind is that it doesn't seem that very many of these KA3s are on the network yet. Well, that is at least what people are sort of speculating. And if that be the case, and let's just say they've made about, I don't know, 10,000 of these, that means that the Kadena, because this is a Kadena miner, the Kadena network hash rate will go absolutely through the roof once these actually start getting delivered out and start being operational to the people that have bought them, which means that, you know, if we see, you know, over $50 a day in revenue right now, but once these come on the network and, you know, the network hash rate would probably be like, I don't know, I think the math is like 6 times the amount it is right now. Obviously, just cut this in a sixth, right? And that will be your actual profit per day. Then when the network hash rate is 6 times as high, and then take into account that at 3,000 watts per day, you're paying quite a lot in terms of power to run this thing. So if you're on, you know, 15 cents per kilowatt, you might go from $42 a day to just a few dollars a day on this machine. So definitely take that into account. The exact same thing obviously goes for the other Kadena miners towards the top here, like the IBLink BMK3. We also have the gold shell boxes here and so on. Same thing also goes for both the K7 and the HS3. So the K7 is an Eagle Song miner and the HS3 is a Handshake miner. And exactly the same thing there. They haven't been shipped out to miners yet. So they're not on the network. The network hash rate is going to explode once they do come on the network. So keep that in mind. And then moving on, we of course have the L7s here, which are script miners, mainly for merge mining Dogecoin with Litecoin. And there are a few things to sort of take into account here. They're not super significant, but they are somewhat significant, which is why I've made them orange instead of red here, right? So we have some things, right? So Litecoin will have a block reward halving coming up somewhat soon. I think it's towards the second half of this year, 2023. That is just something to take into account. However, in terms of profitability on script miners, Litecoin is actually the less significant one and Dogecoin is the bigger one. I think Litecoin is only about 30% of the revenue you make on a script miner. Don't quote me on that, but it's something like that. So it would be like a 15% reduction in profitability on these things. Now, also I did write this, but I know it's somewhat been confirmed that Dogecoin won't move to proof of stake and will stay as proof of work, meaning it will keep being mineable. It is just something that has come up a little bit here and there, so I don't know. Maybe disregard that, but I thought I should just mention it, that there has been talks about it, but also pretty recently it has somewhat been confirmed that this is not happening anytime soon, so take that with a grain of salt, right? Then we also have these new hash blades coming out, and I don't know what to make of them because, so there is this company, I believe they're called Locotech, and they've done these presentations of this new chip that they've developed that is going to be super duper efficient mining the script algorithm, right? And it would absolutely blow the L7s out of the water. If they were to ship these out, it would basically, just like the 𝗖𝗢𝗜𝗏 is super duper efficient and will change the profitability for all other Kadena miners, these new hash blades would do the same to L7s, right? But they don't have a working prototype, at least that they've shown off to the public. All they've shown is renders and, you know, their numbers that, you know, until we see something, I'm very much gonna be like, I don't know, sounds too good to be true, so it probably is too good to be true. Which is why still, with 3 caveats, I'm just labeling these as orange because, you know, none of these are going to, I mean, if those hash blades turn out to be real, then yeah, of course, that's going to be a big issue. But I would say it seems right now more likely that those are not real than that they are real. Anyway, let's move on. And we have, of course, the Jazz Miner. And this goes for all ET hash miners. And that is that the X16Qs, which are these new super efficient miners, they are not on the network yet, just like the 𝗖𝗢𝗜𝗏s. However, I would say this is less significant just because the ET hash network is massive, and even if they've made 10,000, 20,000 of these, it's not gonna have that massive of a impact on the network hash rate in the same way as the 𝗖𝗢𝗏s are gonna have a massive impact on the Kadena network. So it will have, you know, some sort of impact, but it's not going to be game changing for all Ethash miners. At least I don't think it will, but of course I can't tell the future, who knows. But that's why I labeled this as sort of low risk, making it yellow. But that is about it for the caveats. Of course, go through this if you yourself are looking to buy, you know, download this spreadsheet and look through it. Also, yeah, for some of these I've just marked them with, you know, because these are water-cooled machines, so make sure that you can actually handle the infrastructure of having a water-cooled miner. And also same goes because some of these pull like 5,000 plus watts, so you might need some special electrical setup in order to run those as well. Yeah, I believe that is it. One more thing that I want to just touch on is, you know, this coin selection here. Of course, it is preferable to get a miner that can mine multiple coins, just because if one coin were to, you know, crash and die basically, you have other alternatives and your miner won't just turn into a doorstop, right? So that is another concern for this Kadena miner, right? Like, it can mine Kadena, but if Kadena goes away, it can do nothing, and you just spent almost $10,000 on a doorstop. It's a useless piece of machinery at that point. But yeah, to wrap this up, I thought I should just go through some of the ones that me personally I would be looking at. So I fall kind of in between these two categories of 10 cents per kilowatt hour. I think I'm about 12, 13 cents per kilowatt hour. So let's just sort by the 15 cents per kilowatt hour here. So obviously we have the Apollo G1, which do bring in a, you know, somewhat respectable amount per $1,000 spent. And at least from my research and my knowledge, there is no sort of big event coming up on the networks for these coins that it can mine, which is Grin and Mimblewimble coin, I believe. And these miners are also already out there and mining. So there's nothing like, oh, they haven't been delivered yet, they're gonna affect the hash rate. So those are looking pretty interesting. We do also have the D7s here, which they are interesting in that they mine this algorithm that fairly large amount of coins here. You have a selection of coins, so even if one of the coins, you know, goes south, you still have other options, which is good. It is also a, you know, relatively speaking here, it's a cheaper miner because the coins it mines are not as commonly talked about, maybe, I don't know. Then moving on, we of course have the good old Jazz miners, which, I mean, they've been relevant for a while. Obviously super low power consumption. Some of them have come down in price pretty significantly from where they were like a year ago. They do also have the Q versions now, the quiet ones, which I actually have one right here, and I mean, it's served me well so far. You do also get the advantage of the fact that 𝗧, the algorithm, is used by a lot of different coins, and also a lot of new coins tend to use this algorithm. So they do have that going for them. And of course, that same thing goes for the iPolos, especially the V1 Mini SE Plus, which is very efficient and also very cheap at under $1,000. If you're gonna go for any miner under $1,000, the one I would be looking at first is probably gonna be the iPolo one. The Gold Shell KD Box Pro 2 is also a interesting option. However, I would be cautious there with the KA3s coming on the network soon. And yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. Download this spreadsheet and have a look. You can also maybe change these prices if you can get some of these miners for a better deal. See how that would affect the numbers. But yeah, I hope this helped.